Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation, flat on my back with a tiny predator chewing on my jugular.
This is harassment.
Well, it's kind of a long story, which all started 5 years ago when I invited chaos noodles into my life.
Ferrets!
They're adorable, they're playful, they're smart, but they also bite, especially when they're young and you're an inexperienced ferret owner. In this post, I'll explain why ferrets bite and equip you with the knowledge you need to survive the first 100 days. When I first got ferrets, I'll admit to being a little afraid. These tiny carpet sharks have sharp teeth, and they use them for a number of different reasons. The first thing you need to know is that ferrets communicate through biting, and when they're young, straight from their litter, they have a lot to say. Imagine life as a young kid. You're surrounded day and night by your brothers and sisters, your mother watching over you with firm but fair authority. Then one day, you're snatched up, shoved into a plastic cat carrier, and whisked away by an unfamiliar giant into a new house filled with strange smells and sounds. Your first reaction would probably be fear. Some baby ferrets will try to hide, but others, like Scruffles, will take the initiative with a bite first, ask questions later mentality. Don't take it personally. Now is not the time for strict training. If you can, bring some of their bedding from their old home with you and put it somewhere they can hide away and feel safe, with the comforting scent reminding them of home. Then just give them time, and for at least the first few days, let them come to you first. Once they've settled and feel safe, the next order of the day is establishing the hierarchy. Ferrets live by a strict social structure, which is decided by shows of dominance and submission. And, you guessed it, their teeth are the main tools of diplomacy they use. When I first got Scruffles and Wriggles, Scruffles was the dominant one, and she naturally tried to extend that control to me. For weeks she would try and bite me when I picked her up, and although she was happy to play with me, when she could, she would chomp down on my flesh to the point where blood was drawn. One trick I was taught for picking her up safely by a seasoned working ferret owner was to distract her with one hand by wriggling my fingers at her, then sneakily swoop in from behind with my other hand to capture her around the chest and shoulders. Put your middle finger and thumb around the chest below their front legs, your index finger firmly over the shoulder like a seatbelt. This is a great way to hold a ferret, as it stops them being able to twist their head around to bite you. When lifting them up, make sure you support their bottom with your other hand. They might look like wiggly noodles, but it's not good for their spines if you suspend them from just their upper body for too long, especially when they're young and still growing. And never lift them up by the middle of their tummies, as it will put strain on their delicate digestive system and be pretty uncomfortable for your slinky dinkies. We'll get onto strategies for training them out of this biting, but first let's continue with a list of reasons why they bite.
Kuka, you want me to hold you?
When you start to bond with your ferrets, they'll view you as one of their own kind. Sure, a giant, fleshy, strange-smelling beast, but nonetheless you'll be part of the family. And one of the things these agents of chaos love to do is fight. It can look and sound pretty violent when you see two ferrets playing hard. And when you're part of the business, your hands will be treated like any other ferret. One problem: ferrets have tough skin and coarse fur coats to protect them from pushing through roots and undergrowth on the hunt for a rabbit. In comparison, your hands are like plucked chicken wings, and we all know what ferrets like to do with those at dinner time. As the leader of the pack, it's up to you to establish the boundaries.
All right, don't fight.
And teach them the right way to engage with you in play. Again, more on how to do that later. The other reason for young ferrets to bite is they might be teething. It can take up to 9 months for the full 34 adult teeth to come through, so make sure they have access to safe chew toys and tough meaty treats to help them with this. When you're first getting to know your ferrets, I would say avoidance is your best tactic. They need to learn to love and trust you, and coming down hard with discipline when they're still finding their confidence in a new home will slow that process down. Start by letting them come to you for play, and use cat toys and wands to interact without exposing your hands to the chomp. Waggling a blanket is a great way to get my girls revved up for play. Once they gain confidence, you can offer them treats to lick off your fingers so they can get more familiar with the smell and the taste of you. Without any training, young kits should stop being so bitey once they feel safe with you. So just keep your fingers safe and don't take it too personally. If, like Scruffles, your biter is trying to boss you about, you'll need to move on to a training program to establish yourself as pack leader. For this, I used the sin bin method, which goes like this. The first bite gets a warning. Gently scruff them with one hand and pry them off your skin. You can ball your hand into a fist to make it harder for them to keep hold of. Then, keeping hold of the scruff and supporting their weight with your other hand, gently but firmly hold them with their back to the floor. This will emulate the neck-grabbing and pinning act of dominance. Say firmly, but again calmly, "No biting." Then let them go. It's important to use a low, calm voice, as high-pitched and loud shouts will overstimulate and confuse them. And don't hold them pinned for too long, as you don't want to stress them out. At first, there's a strong chance your admonished ferret will just run straight back for another chomp. Repeat the scruffing and pinning, "No," and place them away from you again. The third time they run back, it's into the sin bin.
Right, that's it.
This can be any boring space where they can be contained safely for a minute or two. It's important you don't use their cage or any space they use for play or sleep. I used a clean pedal bin with a cushion lightly rested on the top to make sure there was still good airflow in the container, especially in hot weather. The aim is not to scare them or make them uncomfortable. It's just going to be boring, with nothing to do, see or feel. If there is one thing young ferrets hate more than anything, it's being bored. Leave them in there for 1 minute at first, maybe increasing that to 2 minutes if the message isn't sticking quickly. Never wait more than 2 minutes before bringing them back out, as they could forget what act put them in there, destroying the lesson to be learned. Once the timeout has been served, bring them back out calmly and try to act normally, reassuring them you still love them by engaging in play with a toy or wand and speaking to them kindly. As the training progresses, you might find your ferret recognises the first and second "no" as a prelude to the sin bin, and they'll rethink choosing violence and go find something else to do. If they disengage from biting you for even a few moments, the 2 warnings counter resets to 0. They might get overexcited a few minutes later and come back to bite you again. Start with the first warning, and over time, this will be all they need as a reminder. All ferrets will respond at a different speed, but they are very capable of connecting the timeout with the act of biting, and they will eventually stop. It took Scruffles 4 days of this training to accept me as the boss. Day 1, she was in the sin bin 5 times. I hated doing it, but I stuck with the program. Consistency is really important here, and all members of the family need to apply the same consistent training. On day 2, she was in the sin bin twice, and was starting to recognise the "no" warnings as a prelude to the punishment. Day 3, she avoided incarceration, but she had to be warned a few times. And her final visit to the box of boredom was on day 4. Since then, I have had no issues with her trying to assert her dominance, and far from making her hate me, she loves me the most out of all my ferrets, which is why she always tries to stash me.
Where do you want me? In there?
When a ferret wants to play fight with you, it's something really special, as they treat you just like a sibling. But with your soft skin and propensity to bleed when bitten, you need to help them learn when the play is tough enough. Zorro came to me as an adult and fully bite trained, but I still had to teach him my pain threshold when it came to rough and tumble play. Do this by deploying our old friend, boredom. In other words, stop moving your hand once the bite pressure becomes too much. You'll have to get in there with your chasey hands to help this lesson along. Then, when they've gone too far, calmly press your hand flat to the floor. You could also ball it into a tight fist, so there are fewer places of flesh for them to bite into. The important thing here is not to snatch your hand away or make squeaky noises of pain, as those will both be viewed as playful acts and your ferrets will keep coming at you. Once you stop playing actively, they'll get bored almost instantly and let go, confused as to why the fun has stopped. Remove your hand calmly, then immediately resume playful hand chasing with them. In no time at all, your smart little pop weasels will learn the maximum bite pressure they can use before the fun times stop. And you can stop going to work looking like you had a boxing match with a rose bush. These steps should help you get through the painful phase of becoming a ferret parent, but then you might notice some more quirks that trigger your ferrets to bite. Wriggles is triggered by socks on feet. Not socks on their own or feet on their own, just socks on feet. She can't resist them. It's probably the texture combined with the strong scent. Either way, she's incapable of controlling herself, so I know not to expose my socked feet to her. Unless I'm filming for a video about ferrets biting. I hope you appreciate what I've sacrificed for you. Another obsession Wriggles has is with my inner elbow. When t-shirt weather finally arrives each year, it always takes me by surprise. Once. Then I know to keep my inner elbows out of reach and distract her with other ways to play. She also doesn't like it when I sing. Wriggles, I love you. At least that's what I take from her launching herself teeth first at my jugular whenever I break out into song. In truth, she's likely overstimulated by the high-pitched sound and the sweat gathered in the crease of my skin. Nice.
You're alright, you feel like you're missing out?
While Scruffles was the problem child for a good couple of months, we're now incredibly close. And although it looks like she's chomping down on my finger here, she's actually being incredibly gentle. If I try to pull my hand away, she will tighten her hold, which gets painful in a pinching kind of way as my fleshy fingers slip through her teeth. But she never breaks the skin. She's just trying to hold on to the thing that she loves, which, even though it hurts, is really kind of adorable. Where I do have to watch Scruffles is around my face.
Don't bite my nose!
Because she was so bitey as a kid, I got into the habit of protecting my face by keeping it away from her. As a result, my nose, lips and eyebrows are an endless fascination for her.
Ow!
And given the chance, she'll grab hold of them to bring them closer. Unfamiliar with the soft skin in these facial extremities, this is where she'll draw blood. She doesn't mean to, but we're at an impasse, as I'm not going to hold still while she gives me another piercing without any anaesthetic.
Not mouth.
In my opinion, the best way to deal with these quirks is to avoid the triggering situation. If you know your ferret is going to bite you on your toes, arms, neck or face, just keep them out of its way. I suppose you could use the sin bin training if it bothers you, and of course if you have kids living with ferrets, you'll need to be able to trust them with your human offspring. And on that note, here's one more super important point raised in the comments recently by Margot Indigo. Babies under 6 months old have something called the palmar grasp reflex, which means they'll grab anything that touches their hands and not let go easily. Add in those high-pitched baby cries, which can trigger your ferret's prey drive, and you've got a fast track to disaster. So ferrets and babies must be strictly supervised and only allowed look but don't touch interactions. It's your job to keep everyone safe. I'd love to hear in comments if you have any other tips for bite training. So why do ferrets bite? Because they're ferrets, because they're learning, and because they love you, with their teeth. With patience, play, and maybe a pedal bin of shame, they do get better. even if they still occasionally try to steal your nose.
My nose.
Do you have your own bitey bandits? Drop your story in comments. Solidarity in scars, my friends. See you next time, Floof Crew.
Well done. You managed to control yourself. Good for you.